Like many others, I often describe this society as a matrix. I haven't defined it in detail, but an important part of it is that the ruling class is more detrimental to humankind than what is generally understood. As listeners and viewers of this channel probably are aware of, many others describe the highest earthly powers as a dark, quote-unquote, cabal with deep hidden roots. That doesn't fully resonate with me. I wouldn't rule it out completely, but I'm not convinced. In psychologist and author Steve Taylor's words, the class that is ruling us could be described as a pathocracy. Now, that's bad enough, I'd say. Taylor's thoughts on connection as a prerequisite for the continuum of our species remind me of Dutch historian Rutger Bregman's findings in his book Humankind. Bregman's conclusion is that our problems began when separating hierarchies and power structures were set up, which happened around the time we became settled. Who did this to us? Taylor says, unfortunately, the most disconnected people gravitate to positions of power. I think he's right. We're told a false story that we are separate and that humans are basically short-sighted and selfish, hence the need for top-down rules and rulers. The truth is that the vast majority of us want all of us to thrive, and we do just fine without leaders who tell us what to do. We would organize ourselves organically, but there are exceptions. In the general population, the proportion of psychopaths is believed to be around 1%. There are many studies talking about this and many different definitions, but you often find that number around 1%. However, among politicians, the percentage is significantly higher. Numbers from 5 to 15% are tossed around. It's a hard metric to assess, but there are plenty of studies making this general claim. And the proportion is similarly heightened among business leaders. And no, psychopath does not equate to serial killer. It can, but it's a spectrum with common traits like callousness and a lack of empathy. Psychopathy is one of the disorder types in the so-called dark triad. The other two are Machiavellianism and narcissism. They go together to varying degrees. According to research, narcissism and psychopathy are consistently related to political participation. Now, I would assume that out of the, say, 85% of politicians who don't fit the criteria of the dark triad, it's likely that a majority have experienced some kind of childhood trauma. That could be only, quote unquote, deprivation of love by emotionally cold parents. Feeling unloved and unwanted is devastating to anyone, but especially to a young soul. Among convicts, almost 100% attest to some kind of childhood trauma, according to the CDC. And in one study, 68% of incarcerated adult male felons reported some form of early childhood victimization before the age of 12, either physical abuse, sexual abuse, or neglect. Now, I'm not saying that politicians and people who commit crimes are exactly the same category of people, but there are overlaps. Both categories are people who feel disconnected. They truly believe that they are separate and they have to compete with other humans, fellow humans. This leads to a lack of empathy. I suspect myself also that the pathological expressions of those kinds of personalities have deeper roots than just childhood trauma. What I mean is that they could have been brought into this life by the incarnating soul for learning purposes. Now, if that sounds far out or woo-woo to some, you may consider this. Number one, it's obvious that not all who have experienced childhood trauma become psychopaths. As a matter of fact, quite a few grow up to be impressively different than their parents. And number two, people born with psychopathic traits that are raised by loving parents can become quite functional in society, although they may have to learn actively how to be nice to others. There's an interesting case in point in the form of neuroscientist James Fallon. You can check him out if you want. He's no longer with us, but that's a very interesting figure in this context. And number 3, basically every adult person who is a fully expressed psychopath or narcissist has experienced childhood trauma, some kind of trauma or abuse during childhood. The well-studied connections that I describe here are, I'd say, way too little recognized as explanations, factors behind why we have conflict, abuse, and war in this world. So, why not just change the composition of psychological traits among politicians, you might ask? Well, it's not that simple. Because in the way we built our societies, and you may suspect that the ones who built it or decided how it's going to be built are the same people who are running it. In the way we've built it, there is a dilemma. Those who are empathetic and deeply feel that we are connected, they don't want power. They feel intuitively that it's wrong to tell others what to do. But psychopaths and narcissists don't. There are exceptions to this rule also, of course. I sometimes mention the former Czech president Václav Havel. There are other politicians, wonderful politicians who have tried their best. But most empathetic people who try out politics, they quit or are driven away because the environment is simply too callous. Democracies are orders of magnitude better than feudalism or absolute monarchies. Goes without saying. But even democracies can be pretty blunt, harsh, and unfair. There's a whole field of research that attempts to pinpoint which social, cultural, and economic factors that are conducive for democracy, or the Western variant at least, and which are not. But to put it bluntly, even where democracy seems comfortably established, it hasn't been created from a place of unconditional love for humanity, but from a place of practical necessity. As I see it, the powerful have had to adjust their position in response to pressure from below caused by increased integration, knowledge, and information. Gradually, leaders have embraced the new order, of course, and they've seen the advantage of amassing majorities. But to be honest, how many nations truly follow the solemn declarations that it is we, the people, who are in charge? I'd say 0. Now, if democracy is a practical solution to a quote-unquote people problem, it makes sense then that the democratically organized societal matrix is sold to the public as a necessary framework to avoid the chaos that would ensue without the rules and hierarchies. This is the so-called veneer theory, that civilization is merely a thin veneer covering the true brutish nature of humanity, meaning the true nature of you and me. But who is the brute here? I mean, who is waging wars in the Middle East, in Ukraine, and in Yemen? Who imposed martial law to prevent the spreading of a mostly mild virus? Who is printing your money and raising the interest rates of your mortgage and, by the way, deciding what can and cannot be used as money? Well, it's not you, nor me, nor Aunt Betty. Our present society is based on that false idea that we can't trust each other. Politicians often say the opposite in their speeches, that our democracies are based or built on trust. But that's newspeak. I mean, what happened during the pandemic, for instance? Did our leaders trust us, the people, as in the whole people? No, they didn't. They didn't even trust nature. We were falsely told that natural immunity was inferior to artificial immunity. That's crazy. Laws, employment, fees, interest rates, borders, school mandates, military mandates, they have all survived for centuries because the vast majority of us are conditioned to believe that we can't really trust each other. But it's a story. We need a new story. We no longer need the kind of politicians, parties, states, courts, educational and security systems that we become used to and that we have been led to believe are indispensable. They are not indispensable. They are elements of a pathocracy, arguably created by the minority of humans who feel the most disconnected. We need an inclusive and connected empathocracy, again to use Steve Taylor's term. We need brilliant inspirers and teachers, not hierarchical leaders. And we need a cadre of brilliant administrators to make our physical lives run smoothly. Nobody is above anybody else, regardless of intelligence, experience, or personality. That is a pathological idea, divorced from natural law. Of course, we can't overthrow this system, the whole system, overnight. We will have to begin within the confines of this flawed society. But it is also a good idea to create pockets of alternative ways of running a human society, where connection and love are at the fore. That will gradually entice more and more people. Interesting times these. Love and light, y'all. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to hit that like button and share the video with your friends. Please support the channel if you can. I appreciate all the support. You can become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or you can make a one-off donation via PayPal if you wish. All the links are in the description box below. Thank you.